Psalm 121. God is watching over you, even now. Some days feel like everything is slipping at once. You try to stay strong, but inside there's this quiet fear, like one wrong step and everything could fall apart. The pressure builds, the thoughts get louder, and you start wondering if you're really going to make it through this season without breaking. I felt that kind of unsteady ground before, where even simple decisions feel heavy and uncertain. But right in the middle of that feeling, Scripture speaks with a calm kind of strength that doesn't shout. It steadies you. In Psalm 121, there's a line that feels like someone gently holding your shoulders and reminding you where to look. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Psalm 121:2. That's not denial of struggle. It's a shift of focus. When everything around you feels unstable, the Bible doesn't tell you to pretend you're fine. It tells you where your help actually comes from, not from your strength. Not from people always getting it right, but from the one who made heaven and earth, and who hasn't stopped watching over you. Where your help truly comes from. That quiet shift, lifting your eyes instead of staring at the problem, changes more than you think. Because when everything feels unstable, your instinct is to look around for something to hold on to. A person, a plan, some kind of control. But Psalm 121 gently redirects that instinct. It doesn't deny that you need help. It clarifies where that help actually comes from. The psalmist looks toward the hills, not because the hills have power, but because they remind him to look beyond what is visible. It's a moment of honesty, a pause, a question. Then a clear answer rooted in truth. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Psalm 121:2. That means your help is not limited by your circumstances, your past, or even your current weakness. It comes from the one who created everything you can see and everything you cannot. There's something grounding about that. Because if your help comes from God, then it's not fragile. It's not dependent on how well you're holding things together today. It doesn't rise and fall with your emotions. It stands outside of all of that, and more importantly, it stands above it. Sometimes the real struggle isn't that God isn't helping. It's that we keep looking in places that were never meant to carry us. We lean on people who are just as tired as we are. We depend on outcomes that can change overnight, and when those things fail, it feels like everything is collapsing. But the psalm doesn't point you to temporary support. It points you to a constant source. This doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means you are no longer facing it alone or unsupported. There is a steady help available to you, even when you feel weak, confused, or uncertain. And when that truth begins to settle in your heart, something shifts, not in your circumstances immediately, but in your foundation. Because once you know where your help truly comes from, you start to realize something else. You are not being watched over casually. You are being watched over constantly. God watches over you without rest. There's a kind of fear that shows up when you feel like no one is paying attention, like things are slipping through the cracks, and no one is there to catch them. You try to stay alert, to stay in control. But you're human. You get tired. Your mind drifts. Your strength fades. And in those moments, it can feel like everything depends on you holding it all together. But Psalm 121 speaks directly into that fear with a simple, powerful truth. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Psalm 121:3-4. God doesn't get distracted. He doesn't miss details. He doesn't take breaks from caring for you. Think about that for a moment. While you're overwhelmed, he is aware. While you're asleep, he is still watching. While you're unsure of what's next, he is already present in what's coming. His care is not occasional. It is continuous. This doesn't mean every moment will feel safe or easy, but it does mean that you are never outside of his attention. Even in the quiet moments where nothing seems to be happening, God is not absent. He is actively watching over you in ways you may not even recognize yet. There's a deep kind of peace that comes from knowing you don't have to carry the weight of constant vigilance. You don't have to stay strong every second of the day. You don't have to anticipate every possible outcome, because the one who watches over you never grows tired, never loses focus, and never steps away. And maybe that's what your heart needs to hear right now. You are not responsible for holding your life together on your own. God is present in every moment, even the ones that feel uncertain or unseen. And when you begin to trust that He is always watching over you, even without rest, you start to understand the next promise more deeply. If He is that attentive, then He is also able to keep you from falling. You will not slip, even when the ground feels unsteady. And this is where the promise becomes deeply personal. Not just that God is watching, but that He is actively keeping you. Because there are moments when life doesn't just feel uncertain, it feels like you're about to lose your footing completely. You try to stay steady, but the pressure, the emotions, the unexpected turns, it all feels like too much. Yet Psalm 121 speaks directly into that fragile place with a quiet assurance. He who watches over you will not slumber. Psalm 121:3. Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say you'll never face difficult paths. It doesn't say the road will always be smooth. But it does say that even on uneven ground, you will not be allowed to fall beyond His care. That means when you feel like you're barely holding on, God is still holding you. Even if your strength is fading, His grip is not. Even if your thoughts are scattered, His purpose for you remains steady. There is a difference between feeling like you might fall and actually being abandoned. And according to Scripture, you are not abandoned. Sometimes slipping isn't physical, it's emotional, spiritual, internal. It's when doubt creeps in, when fear starts to speak louder than faith, when you question whether you're strong enough to keep going. But this verse doesn't depend on your strength. It rests on God's faithfulness. You may stumble, you may have moments where you feel shaken, but the promise is that your life is not left to chance. God is actively keeping your steps from leading you into destruction. Even when you don't see how, even when it doesn't make sense yet, He is still working beneath the surface, steadying you in ways you may only understand later. And maybe, right now, that's what you need to hold on to. Not the feeling of stability, but the truth of it. Because your security is not based on how steady you feel, it's based on who is holding you steady. And if He is close enough to keep your steps from slipping, then He is also close enough to stand right beside you in every moment. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. This is not distant protection. This is not God watching from far away, hoping things turn out well. Psalm 121 brings the picture closer, more personal, more immediate. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. Psalm 121:5. In the world this psalm was written in, shade wasn't just comfort, it was survival. The sun could drain your strength, wear you down, and leave you exposed. And to say that God is your shade means He is not only present, He is actively shielding you from what could overwhelm you. At your right hand, that's not random. That's the place of closeness, the place where help is immediate. It means God is not delayed in responding to your need. He is near. Close enough to protect, close enough to strengthen, close enough to remind you that you are not facing this alone. There are battles you can see, things you can name, situations you can point to, but there are also pressures you can't fully explain. Emotional weight, quiet fears, moments where you feel drained without knowing exactly why. And in those moments, God's protection isn't always loud or obvious, but is real. Sometimes His protection looks like strength you didn't know you had. Sometimes it looks like peace that doesn't match your situation. Sometimes it's the quiet restraint that keeps things from becoming worse than they could have been. Not everything you've been protected from is visible, but that doesn't make it any less true. And this changes how you walk through your day, because instead of feeling exposed, you begin to realize you are covered. Not perfectly comfortable, not completely free from struggle, but protected in a way that keeps you from being consumed. God doesn't promise that the heat won't exist, but He promises you won't face it unshielded. And that kind of presence, constant, close, and intentional, means that his care extends beyond just one moment or one situation. It reaches into every part of your life, in every season, at every hour, whether you see it or not. Protection, in every season, day and night. And that protection doesn't come and go. It doesn't depend on whether it's a good day or a difficult one. Psalm 121 makes that clear in a way that covers both the visible and the unseen parts of your life. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. Psalm 121:6. This isn't saying life will never touch you with hardship. The Bible is honest about that. But it is saying that nothing, whether it's what you face openly during the day or what quietly weighs on you at night, has the authority to destroy what God is protecting. Daytime struggles are easier to recognize. Responsibilities, pressure, expectations, the things people see, you push through them, sometimes barely, trying to hold everything together. But then night comes, and everything slows down, and that's when the thoughts get louder, the doubts, the memories, the worries you didn't have time to process. And yet, this promise covers both. God's protection doesn't end when the day ends. He is just as present in your quiet, restless moments as he is in your busiest hours. Nothing catches him off guard, not your hidden ones either. There's something deeply comforting in knowing that your life is not divided into parts that God handles and parts that he overlooks. He sees it all. He guards it all. Not with a distant awareness, but with a personal, ongoing care that follows you through every hour. You may still feel the weight of certain seasons. You may still walk through days that stretch you and nights that test your peace. But those moments are not outside of God's reach. They are still within his covering. And as this truth settles in, it begins to reshape how you view your future. Because if God's protection is this complete, covering both day and night, then it's not just about isolated moments of help. It's about something much greater, something that extends across your entire life. Your going out and coming in is secured by God. This is where the promise widens even further. It's no longer just about specific situations or certain times of day. Psalm 121 brings it all together with a statement that reaches into every part of your journey. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. Psalm 121:8. That means your life is not being watched in fragments. God isn't only present in your biggest moments or your hardest trials. He is watching over your entire path. Every step forward, every transition, every beginning, and every ending. Your going out represents the things you step into, the unknown, the risks, the decisions you have to make without having all the answers. And your coming in represents the places you return to, the moments of rest, reflection, and even the quiet spaces where you process everything you've been through. God is in both. He is present when you step into something new and uncertain. He is present when you come back feeling tired or unsure. He is not limited to one part of your life. His care surrounds all of it. And what makes this promise even more powerful is that it is not temporary. It doesn't say, for a season, or until things get better. It says, both now and forevermore. That means there is no point in your life where God steps away from watching over you, not in your present and not in your future. You may not always understand where your path is leading. You may not always feel secure in every decision. But your life is not unguarded. It is being watched over with a consistency that does not break, does not fade, and does not end. And when you begin to see your life through that lens, not as something fragile and exposed, but as something held and guided, you start to realize something steady and unshakable. You are not walking alone, and you are not walking without protection. Closing truth, you are held. You will not fall. There will be moments when life feels uncertain again, moments when your footing doesn't feel as strong as you hoped. That doesn't mean the promise has changed. You are still being kept. Through every step, every season, every quiet struggle and visible challenge, God remains present. Not distant, not distracted, not uncertain. He is actively watching over your life, holding what you cannot hold together on your own. You may feel weak at times. You may feel unsteady. But your life is not resting on your ability to stay strong. It is resting on His faithfulness to keep you. And that changes everything. Because even when you don't feel secure, you are still held. And because you are held, you will not fall.